Hi, this is Mike, and welcome to the Living Confidently with Sight Loss podcast, the podcast aimed at giving you help and advice to, live confidently with sight loss. I hope you're all well. Now, earlier this week, I sat down with Steph and Bailey, two very well thought of and highly respected members of staff here at Envision. And I wanted to talk to them about low vision and how Envision can help those with sight impairments. I began by asking Steph about the recent meeting with the Thomas Pocklington Trust and the new paint job in her room. So thank you for coming and joining us. Before we start, Steph, I believe you've just had a room decorated, newly decorated.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that for your children's assessments?
Yes, I can. So we had the wall partially done last year.
Yep.
And it was finished off last week, which is very exciting. And the room now also has a name.
Ooh.
Ooh.
What's the name?
The name is the Lighthouse Hub, and that's to match with Communications Hub, which is obviously where it's based. So
Brilliant. Yeah. Good. And it's just been posted on our Facebook page that we've got a new partnership with the Thomas Pocklington Trust.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that, about the partnership and what it aims to achieve?
So we had a visit from Tara and Nicole from TPT, Thomas Pocklington Trust.
Yep.
It's to try and streamline things a little bit, really.
Okay.
With education and children, I won't go too much into the jargon and things, but there's a lot of red flags when it comes to education and children getting the help that they need and they deserve. Right. So they sort of fill in those gaps for us. If there's any queries with EHCPs, which is a funding system for children, they're there for advice, really. I wouldn't say it's a partnership, but they're there at all times if we need them for any advice. Because they know the ins and outs of education.
Yeah.
A lot better than I do.
Very good. So let's start broad, really, with the low vision assessments that we do and whatnot. So when you evaluate someone, whether adult or child, what are the key assessments that we perform? Bailey?
So I think the low vision scheme as a whole, I think, is to obviously look at the practical side of sight loss. So we look overall at everything. So my big thing is we get people in to support them in whatever way they need. So obviously, whether that be through things like reading and things like that, but ultimately it's just to see what people need more than anything. So it's usually what I do is I let people take the floor and effectively talk to me about all of the different things that they potentially struggle with, a little bit about the vision and how it maybe affect them. And then we can move forward with that, and we can look at those different things, look at, pieces of advice, whether it be support or in the terms of a visual aid, things like magnification, whether it be telescopes for distance vision, anti-glare filter glasses, so like either cocoons or cocooners, or, other things like that, whether it's the television. We can look at all sorts of different things. And the good thing is we can refer into anywhere that we need to as well on top of that. So in terms of the support that we give through low vision assessments, it's quite a broad thing that we can do. So there's loads of different things, but it all depends on the individual and what what they want, really.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong, is there? It's all based on that individual at the time.
Are there any particular signs or symptoms that prompt parents or adults to seek help?
I think, speaking from the child aspect, it comes from schools a lot of the time. So the schools will reach out for some additional support for the children. From a young age, it's sometimes difficult to determine if it is just their age that's stopping them or if it is a sight issue. Like Bailey with the adults, we can refer into all the relevant professionals should they need it. But we're here for support for anything and everything, really.
I think my big thing, is the fact that in my opinion, with someone that has had sight loss now for 25 years, and has experienced it and been there and done it with anything. I've been through the school system, I've been through college, university, obviously job prospects and things like that. I think to me, sight loss is sight loss, and that doesn't matter what level of sight loss that is. It doesn't matter what condition it is. You know, whether there's a registration there, whether there's not. It doesn't matter. You know, in Envision's aspect, sight loss is sight loss. We can see anyone and we can give support to anyone. So it is a case of, if there is a vision loss there to a certain extent, whatever extent that is, then, you know, give us a call. We can refer you into our system, and then we can see you and we can give you as much support as you possibly need.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, how early can issues be detected? Do we have any tools to evaluate visual functions? I mean, we've heard about the newly decorated room that we've got for children. How does that improve the assessment process for the children?
So it means they've got the relevant support they need as early as possible. I think the youngest client I've seen up to date is 7 months old.
Wow.
So naturally, there's not much we can offer them in terms of aids because they're tiny babies. But we can make sure they've got support in place. If children are at nursery, we can make sure that the SEND team from the councils are involved to offer extra support. And then, of course, crucial time is when they start school. So the sooner they're in with us, really.
The sooner the better.
The better. And we can make sure they've got everything in place before they hit those big milestones with schools and universities, college, etc. All the way around, you know. You know what I mean.
Yeah. I think the other thing as well, you know, is that, especially from the children's side of things, obviously it's a lot of support for the parent as well. And I think from that perspective as well, whether it be the parent or from the adult perspective, whether it's a family member or other support systems, I think that's important as well to show that we are there and what kind of support it is, because the understanding is quite key as well, because there are so many different things that can I suppose, stop that, the understanding side of things, because at the end of the day, the only person that knows what someone can see is that person. We can, as much as we can do all of our assessments and, we can show all the different kinds of aids and things like that. It's down to the individual to be able to, use those particular aids, but it's also down to the family member as well, or whoever it is that's supporting, to try their best, I suppose, to understand. But the only way that they can do that is through communication, both ways. I mean, is there any kind of visual aids, technologies that you would recommend for adults trying to regain their independence? Again, I think it's a sort of a broad side of things as well, because obviously in terms of technology and things like that, we can obviously refer into other technology companies. We work quite closely with VisionAid, for example, who are an assistive technology company. But they can look at all sorts of different visual aids, whether it be electronic magnifiers or text-to-speech aids. There's so many different things out there, and I think that's the thing, is that's the best thing about the low vision assessments, is it's so broad in the sense of we can give so many types of different support, and that's the reason why we get people in, or we can obviously do home visits for those people that are housebound, but it's catering for everyone's individual needs based off of how they feel, because you get some people right at the start of their sight loss journey that maybe do struggle a little bit more to communicate what they struggle with and things like that, because they haven't maybe found that out yet. So from that perspective, it might just be the initial kind of, I don't know, maybe the emotional support side and things like that. Whereas, someone that has maybe accepted it a little bit more, it might be looking at things like the visual aid side and things like that. So it does just all depend on the individual.
What about kids, Steph? I mean, is there any particular strategies or tools that would be most effective for you to help with their learning and daily activities?
Very similar to Bailey's response, really. Echo most of what he says. It's all based on the individual. With children, it's sometimes very difficult to determine what sight they actually do have. So it's a lot of it's through play with children. So you maybe, I've got a few toys in my room, maybe ask them to reach out for the green toy or the red toy, or point out to things on the wall, my new artwork on the wall, use that as part of the test. But it's very individual. It's not one size fits all. And And they can keep coming back as many times as they need as well. If they find that one thing's not working, they want to try something else, they just keep coming back.
Yeah. Moving on to living with the low vision, how do we help adults adapt to their vision loss, especially in terms of confidence and daily living?
I think obviously, from the low vision side of things in terms of the assessment side, I think obviously we do a lot of sort of question and answer type of thing so that we can, I suppose, gauge where people are in terms of their sight loss, whether they struggle with a certain task or whether they're all right with that. And if they are all right, then that's brilliant, because at the end of the day, it's all about promoting independence and allowing people to, I suppose, understand where they sit with their own sight loss and how they can potentially, adapt to their own surroundings to be able to improve their functionality in day-to-day life. So, if it's cooking, for example, then what tools are out there to be able to help them with that. And that's another thing that obviously we can do, is we can refer into the vision rehabilitation specialist. As well. Obviously, we're quite lucky here at Envision to have Jo Jackson, who's a vision rehabilitation specialist as well. So obviously she can offer, some support in that aspect, whether it be support and advice, or she can go to people's houses and maybe talk to them about what they could potentially do in terms of keeping the house organised, or, whatever it is. Because again, there's so many different things that can potentially help someone. It's just about finding what works and what doesn't, really.
Do you think there's any common misconceptions that you encounter about low vision in adults and children?
The one that gets mentioned to me a lot, I don't know if it's the same with you, Bailey, with the adults, but when it comes to registration, so you can be registered sight impaired or severely sight impaired, and a lot of the parents that come along, they say, if they're registered, it means they're blind. It doesn't mean that at all. I think that's from way back when you would have been registered blind, wouldn't you? Well, that's not the correct terminology anymore. It's not how it works anymore. So in my opinion, that's a huge misconception. They presume that because you've been registered SI or SSI, they think you've got no vision whatsoever, and that's just really not the case at all.
Yeah, I think we move with the times here at Envision, and I think, that it is old terminology, and I'm a prime example of that. When I was first registered, I was registered as blind. Realistically, I don't tend to, see it as a label or anything like that, but I see it as it's something to potentially help me in future, because there are obviously the benefit side of that, whether it be, things like, for anyone, it could be things like blue badges, it can be, your TV license and stuff like that. There's loads of different things out there, but at the end of the day, you've got to be at a level to be registered. My other thing that I would say as well is that it is good having the registration if you're able to have the registration, but at the same time, it's not a case that you want to try and use that as a label, because you can do what you want to do. And I think it is that thing of, continuing that progress of your sight loss journey and being able to, promote yourself to be as independent as possible in any day life. You don't want to sort of sit there with that registration and go, I can't do anything now because I've been registered as severely sight impaired, for example. It is about that promoting that independence, really.
Talking about looking into the future, is there any particular advancements in technology that potentially give you hope for the future? Is there anything that you can think of at the moment that...
I mean, there's all sorts out there.
Yeah.
I think the short answer to that from my perspective is yes, there definitely is.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously medically there's a lot that has changed in the last sort of 15, 20 years, with different eye conditions now having either cures or a slowing down process, for example. You've got to think of, for example, macular degeneration. Now there is the injections with wet macula. That wasn't around years and years ago. It's something that's come into play sort of, I suppose, fairly recently. It depends on what timeline you look at, really. But in terms of technology and things like that, obviously a new thing with technology is things like artificial intelligence and things like that. Obviously now we've got things like Alexa as well that exist, which, obviously we're now looking at a lot with our Talking Envision. So I think from that perspective, that's something that's really, really good, and will continue to get better and better. I think, technology as a whole is only going to improve. It's going to continue to improve. Now, what that looks like, obviously we don't know because we can't look into the future. Maybe that's something we can do. But, you know, I think from my perspective, obviously, you know, looking forward as someone that is, you know, a younger person, I think obviously I've got a lot of years left in me at Envision. You know, it could be 40, 45, 50 years before I retire. So
oh no, Bailey!
you don't know what technology is going to be like at that point. So I think, you know,
no Bailey. It'll be a robot that's taken over.
Robot Bailey will be in the building. But yeah, so I think, you know, from that perspective, there is definitely hope for the future, you know, with sight loss, and I think things will continue to improve, you know, as the years go on, effectively.
Yeah. Finally, if you could say any advice that you would give to parents worried about the child's vision or adults just learning about their diagnosis, would you give any advice, anything?
I would say just be open and honest.
Yeah.
When people have accepted the sight loss, it's a lot easier to support people then. But just be honest. There's nothing we haven't heard here before, nothing to be embarrassed about, ashamed about. Just be honest and we can give you the support that you need.
Yeah, I think from the adult side of things as well, obviously I know Steph will, you know, have her own experiences with the children's side. I think from the adult side, it is just communication. I think ultimately, I think it is, you know, even if it's just a case that you just call us up and, you know, you can speak to us about the sight loss element and, you know, what you're struggling with and things like that, then we can book you in for a low vision assessment and we can do that in a face-to-face environment. It does allow for a little bit sort of more support, at which point then we can work with you on as much or as little as people want, you know. But if there is no communication, then there isn't an element there that we can particularly help. There's got to be a first element of support there. So, and then once that support first does happen, then we can run like the wind. So yeah, I think from my perspective, and also it's trying. I suppose, you know, it does take a lot of people a lot more time to accept it and things like that. But you know, it's trying to do those adaptions and, you know, the understanding side of things. I think, you know, you've got to try and understand where you sit and what you can do, and, you know, understanding that it might take a little bit of time to accept, but once you do accept that, then like Steph said, it does make it a little bit more easy to you know, accept and move forward with, really.
Well, thank you very much to Steph and to Bailey there for taking time out of the busy schedules to come and have a quick chat with us. And that's all for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to check out our other podcasts on YouTube, please do feel free. There are some still available on Spotify and on other good podcast broadcasters. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can get more content straight away to your phone, your tablet, or however you're listening. And if you do want any more information, please do give us a ring. The Law Centre is available throughout the week on 01253 362696 or email info, that's INFO, at, which is the A with a circle around it, Envision, spelt NVISION-NW.co.uk, info@envision-nw.co.uk. Until next week, take care, bye for now.